For more on this, we're now joined from the US on this impeachment process. We're joined by our correspondent, Kate Fisher, who's in Washington, D.C. Kate, thanks very much indeed for joining us. I suppose being there, you can tell us how historic this impeachment really is.
Well, it does feel different. Covering Donald Trump's presidency and living here in Washington, it does feel like there is a fresh scandal, a fresh horror, a fresh shock every week, and they almost all fade into one another, and you sort of think, gosh, that happened, that happened. What a lot of people here are saying is that this is bigger and it does feel different from all the rest, because this is something that has only happened now 3 times in history. It's the first time in this generation that it has happened. So there are lots of adults in America who have not witnessed an impeachment of a president. So it does feel like a big deal. But I do caveat that with the fact that we have got a presidency here which has thrown up lots of shocks, as I've just said, and they do kind of get forgotten. It will be interesting to see whether this still resonates with people in 10 months' time when the Americans go back to the ballot box to elect their next president.
All right, so help us understand, for people outside the US watching all of this play out, you know, if somebody does something wrong and it gets tested, shouldn't it be obvious that the right thing needs to be done? What we're seeing is that if you're a Republican, you support this man no matter what. If you're Democrat, you want him out no matter what. It seems as if, from the outside looking in, the facts don't actually matter.
Well, that is what a lot of Democrats would say as well, because they believe that they have provided watertight evidence of wrongdoing that the president has conducted. And indeed, there are indisputable facts here. I think there's a nuance. A lot of Republicans have not publicly said that they agree with what the president did with regards to Ukraine. They haven't necessarily defended his actions there, but they are defending him, and they are saying that they believe that the impeachment process was wrong and not fair. So there is a subtle difference there in what they are saying publicly. But yes, you are absolutely right. This is an incredibly partisan city. It feels like the debate of around 10 hours yesterday, it was supposed to be a debate, but really it is just Republicans saying what they think and Democrats saying what they think, and neither side taking on board what the other is saying. It is like they are on 2 completely different planets when it comes to what they're discussing. They never meet in the middle. And the last impeachment of President Bill Clinton, during that, there were Democrats and Republicans that switched, that crossed the aisle, that voted for and against, kind of regardless of their party. Whereas with this impeachment, it has been strictly partisan. All Republicans have supported Donald Trump, and only 2 and 3 Democrats changed their mind as well. So, yes, it's an incredibly divided political atmosphere we have here.
And I would no doubt, I guess, think that a lot of this has to do with the elections on the horizon and people trying to stay in office in the areas that they represent. And this is a political gamble, isn't it? Because depending on what happens next, it could affect people's political careers.
Absolutely. Particularly for the Democrats here. They have taken huge risks, many of them. Many of them were freshly elected to Congress in the 2018 midterm elections, where we saw a resurgence of Democrats, House seats particularly, and that's when the Democrats took control of the House of Representatives. And many of those newly elected Democrats won in areas, in districts that had voted for Donald Trump in 2016. So they're on very small majorities as it is, and with constituents who have voted for President Trump in the past, and yet they still took the decision that they were going to support these impeachment articles, even though it could mean that they're not going to be re-elected next time around. So that shows you the gravity that many of these newly elected Democratic representatives felt about this. And on the Republican side, you're right again. Every Republican member of Congress knows, really, that while President Trump still holds such popularity in their party, that if they go against him, it's kind of political suicide, and they're highly unlikely to get re-elected, not only because their constituents support him, but also because Donald Trump takes does not like any kind of opposition. And they know that they could well be on the end of some vicious tweets from the president if they go against him. So yes, a lot of what happened yesterday here in Washington will affect what happens in November.
All right, so what happens next? It looks as if that the Senate trial might not happen as quickly as people thought, that the Democrats might want to hold on to it a little bit. Concerns about how the trial might play out?
Yeah, that's right. After the impeachment vote yesterday, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, gave a press conference in which she said that there were still disagreements over how the trial would look, how it would be conducted, how it would be managed, and she felt that at the moment it wouldn't be fair, and that she wasn't willing to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate until she was happy with the way that she believed the trial would be conducted. So there's nothing firm yet. This was just a press conference yesterday. We had thought that after the vote the articles would be immediately sent to the Senate, and indeed the Senate's agenda has been cleared for January so that they have nothing on the books, so to speak, so that they can have this trial. But at the moment the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi hasn't yet sent the articles of impeachment to the Senate, because once she does that, it's no longer under the control of the House of Representatives and her. It is all under the control of the Senate, where she'll have no or much less say in what happens. So yeah, there is this kind of potential delay, although listening to some Republicans who've been talking about this, they say, well, so don't send them. We don't care. We don't want the trial anyway. So there's, the Senate Republicans, they don't want the trial, but if they are going to have the trial, they're going to fight to have it the way they want it. For example, they want it to be short without calling witnesses. The Democrats want a longer trial, and they want to hear from key White House aides that they weren't able to get to give evidence during their part of the investigation. People like former National Security Advisor John Bolton and the acting Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney, people they say have first-hand experience of the issues at hand.
All right, Kate, thanks very much indeed. We'll leave it there. That's Kate Fisher, our correspondent in Washington, D.C., breaking things down for us in terms of this impeachment process that's going to the second stage.